Welcome back. Thank you for showing up again. Today we will take a deep dive into Abraxas. Probably haven't heard very much about him, which is interesting. He is the hidden first god. Primordial as fuck. But before we get started, I know you all hear content creators ask for likes and subs all the time, so this time I won't ask. I'll include my source material in the description. Let's get started. Abraxas is a word of mystic meaning used in ancient times as a name for a supreme deity, a magical formula, or a charm. According to some sources, the word represents the 7 planets of the ancient world, as the numerical value of its letters add up to 365, the number of days in a year. Abraxas was also associated with Gnosticism, a religious movement that emphasized personal knowledge of the divine and rejected the material world as evil. One of the Gnostic teachers, Basilides, regarded Abraxas as the highest god who created 365 heavens and ruled over them. Abraxas was often depicted as a composite creature with the head of a rooster, the body of a human, and the legs of a snake or a dragon. He also held a whip and a shield with the word Io, a name of God in Greek. Abraxas was believed to have power over the elements, the seasons, and the fate of humans. So, weaver of fates. Abraxas stones, or gems, engraved with the word and the image of Abraxas were used as amulets or talismans by people who sought protection, healing, or success. Some scholars think that the word Abraxas may be related to abracadabra, another magical word that was used to ward off illness or misfortune. Some other figures associated with Abraxas are Basilides, the 2nd century Gnostic teacher who regarded Abraxas as the highest god and the source of divine emanations. Carl Jung, we'll talk about him some more, a 20th century psychologist who used Abraxas as a symbol of the unconscious forces that shape human life. Hermann Hesse, a 20th century novelist who wrote a book called Demian, in which Abraxas is a god above both God and the devil. Aleister Crowley, a 20th century occultist who identified Abraxas with the solar phallic god Baphomet. So there's some connections there to some different various things. Let's go into Carl Jung first. We've all heard this name. What does he have to do with Abraxas? Carl Jung was a psychologist and the founder of analytical psychology. He was interested in the symbolic and archetypal aspects of the human psyche and explored various sources of ancient and modern wisdom, such as alchemy, mythology, religion, and Gnosticism. One of the sources that Jung studied was the Gnostic teacher Basilides, who lived in the 2nd century CE and taught in Alexandria, Egypt. Basilides regarded Abraxas as the highest god who transcended both the Christian God and the devil, and who created 365 heavens and ruled over them. Abraxas was a complex and paradoxical figure who embodied both good and evil, light and darkness, life and death, and all other opposites. Basilides believed that Abraxas was the source of divine sparks or emanations, which were trapped in the material world and needed to be liberated through gnosis, or personal knowledge of the divine. This is where we as humans feel the need or drive to connect with the source. Also, in this description, I'm reminded of karma. None are immune to karmic effects. And karmic effects are neither dark nor light. They just are. In essence, karma is something you want to stay in balance with. It strikes me that Abraxas is similar. All around us, all-encompassing, neither good nor bad. Jung was fascinated by the concept of Abraxas and used it as a symbol of the unconscious forces that shape human life. He wrote a book called 7 Sermons of the Dead, which was a fictional dialogue between himself and the spirit of Basilius. In this book, Jung presented Abraxas as the god of the visible world, who gives birth to and devours his own world, and who represents the driving force of individuation, or the process of becoming a whole and integrated person. Jung contrasted Abraxas with the figures of Helios, the god of the sun, and the devil, who represent the driving forces of differentiation, or the emergence of consciousness and opposites. Jung also wrote about Abraxas in his famous Red Book, which was a record of his visionary experiences and inner explorations. So there was a time when Jung kind of went off, or home, I guess, and kind of went into self-exploration and very deeply became entrenched in this. And this is when these works were done. Jung was extremely brilliant. Very thought-provoking work. Jung's work with Abraxas was an attempt to understand the nature of the human psyche and its relation to the cosmos. He saw Abraxas as a powerful and mysterious entity who could not be fully grasped by rational thought, but who could offer insights and guidance to those who sought him. Jung also recognized the dangers of Abraxas, who could lead to madness or destruction if not balanced by other forces. Jung's work with Abraxas was a part of his larger project of creating a new mythology for the modern world, one that could address the spiritual and psychological needs of humanity in the face of the challenges and crises of the 20th century. The Red Book is a manuscript created by the Swiss psychologist between 1914 and 1930. It contains his personal reflections, visions, fantasies, and dreams, which he recorded and illustrated in a red leather-bound folio. The Red Book is considered to be the source of Jung's main ideas and theories, such as the collective unconscious and the archetypes, the individuation process, and the psychological types. The Red Book was not published until 2009 after Jung's heirs agreed to make it accessible to the public. It was translated into English and other languages and accompanied by extensive notes and commentary by the editor Sonu Shamadashnani. The Red Book has been widely praised as a masterpiece of art and psychology and has inspired many scholars, artists, and seekers of wisdom. The Red Book is divided into 2 parts, Liber Primus, the first book, and Liber Secundus, the second book. The first part consists of 16 chapters, which describe Jung's initial encounters with his unconscious and his dialogues with various figures, such as his soul, the spirit of the depths, Elijah, Salome, and Philemon. The second part consists of 14 chapters, which explore deeper themes such as the relation between the ego and the self, the role of anima and the animus, the nature of the God image, and the meaning of human history. The Red Book also contains 3 appendices, scrutinies, which are additional visions and fantasies, drafts, which are earlier versions of some chapters, and paintings, which are reproductions of Jung's original illustrations. The Red Book is a unique and fascinating document that reveals Jung's inner journey and his creative genius. It also is a challenge and an invitation for anyone who wants to explore their own psyche and the mysteries of life. So now we're going to move on to Baphomet, which is also equated with Abraxas in literature, and they share some similarities. Baphomet is a term that was originally associated with an idol that the Knights Templar were said to have worshipped. Later, Baphomet was incorporated into other occult and Western esoteric traditions as a powerful figure, often depicted as a winged man with the head of a goat. Baphomet first appeared in historical records in the 11th century when a crusader wrote that the Muslim enemies called upon Baphomet before attacking. Some scholars think that Baphomet was a corruption of the name Muhammad, the Islamic prophet. In the 14th century, the Knights Templar, a military order that fought in the Crusades, were accused of heresy, blasphemy, and idolatry by King Philip of France, who wanted to seize their wealth and power. The Templars were tortured and forced to confess that they worshipped a head or a statue named Baphomet, among other charges. However, the validity of these confessions is doubtful, as they were obtained under duress and contradicted by other testimonies. In the 19th century, the French occultist Eliphas Levi drew a famous image of Baphomet based on his own imagination and symbolism. He depicted Baphomet as a winged humanoid with a goat's head, a torch between the horns, a pentagram on the forehead, female breasts, and a rod with two serpents, and the words Salve and Coagula on the arms. Levi intended Baphomet to represent the harmony of opposites, the cosmic principle of creation and destruction, and the attainment of spiritual enlightenment. Since then, Baphomet has been adopted by various occult and mystical groups, such as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the Ordo Templi Orientis, the Church of Satan, and the Temple of Set. Baphomet is also used as a symbol of rebellion, freedom, individualism by some artists, musicians, and activists. So that is yet another name. In all of these deep dives with hermeneutics, you're going to see a repetition of many, many names. All the names are important, and all of them are pertaining to the same creature. There is power in a name. You will hear people say that, but that is true, and that is why some of these entities have so many names, and the names stand for different aspects of them, different parts of their character. Okay. The magical formula of Abraxas is a term that refers to the use of the word Abraxas as a name of power and a symbol of the 7 planets in the ancient magic. The word Abraxas was engraved on gemstones, which were used as amulets or charms by people who sought protection, healing, or success. The word was also written in a triangular form, forming a word square, which was believed to have healing properties. The word Abraxas may have originated from the Egyptian words Abrak and Sax, meaning the honored or hallowed word. The word may also be related to the word abracadabra, another magical word that was used to ward off illness or misfortune. The word Abraxas, in addition to its numerical value of 365, may also represent the 7 classic planets: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, as each letter corresponds to a planet in the Greek alphabet. The magical formula of Abraxas was used in various spells and rituals, which are recorded in the Greek Magical Papyri, a collection of texts from the 2nd century BCE to the 5th century CE. The papyri contain instructions for invoking gods, angels, demons, and spirits, as well as performing divination, love magic, protection, and curses. The word Abraxas appears in several spells, such as the following. I'm going to read these spells. They have some really long words in them. Just bear with me. A spell for success and favor. I invoke you, the greatest god, the god of gods, Abraxas, who holds the whole cosmos in your hand, so that you may grant me success and good luck in this matter which I desire, and in every matter. For I am your servant, and I invoke your holy name. Ablanathanalba, Akramachamari, Senakenta Both, Abara Ra Tioth, Abraxas. Grant me success and favor in this matter and in every matter, as you granted Solomon and Asclepios. I ask you in the name of Io, Saboth, Adonai, Elonai, Abraxas. Amen. The next is a spell for protection from danger. I invoke you, the angel of the mighty God, the great Abraxas, who is set over the first heaven, whose name Marmaraoth, Marmara Chithoth, Marmarian, Marmarachon, Marmarachoth, Marmaraoth. Protect me from every evil and every danger, and do not let any demon or any wicked person or any accident harm me, for I bear the seal of the great God, the living Abraxas, on this finger of mine. Abraxas, Abraxas, Abraxas. The next is a spell for love and attraction. I invoke you, the great and powerful name of the true God, the one who above every name and above every god and archangel, the great God, Abraxas, to send your angel who is under you, who has authority over love affairs, and his name, Anugia, Giza, Anugion, Anugizon, Anugizoth, Anugia. Let him inflame with love for me the heart and soul and spirit and liver and gall of her whom I desire, and her name is, and you would put the name of the person there. Let her love me, and let her not be able to eat or drink or sleep until she comes to me and submits to me in every matter. I ask you in the name of the great God, Abraxas, and in the name of the angel who serves you in love affairs, Anugia. Amen. Little addendum right here. Don't do that. Love spells are bad business. Just do it the right way. Don't do it that way. The more you know. These are some examples of the magical formula of Abraxas. But there may be more as well. The word Abraxas is a powerful and mysterious word that was used in ancient magic to invoke the highest god and the cosmic forces. Epiphanius appears to follow partly Irenaeus, partly the lost compendium of Hippolytus. He designates Abraxas more distinctly as the power above all, the first principle, the cause and first archetype of all things, and mentions that Basilidians referred to 365 as the number of parts in the human body, as well as the days in the year. The author of the appendix, who likewise follows Hippolytus' compendium, adds some further particulars, that Abraxas gave birth to mind, nous, the first in the series of primary powers, enumerated likewise by Irenaeus and Epiphanius, that the world, as well as the 365 heavens, was created in honor of Abraxas, and that Christ was sent not by the maker of the world, but by Abraxas. Nothing can be built on the vague allusions of Jerome, according to whom Abraxas meant for Basilides, the greatest God, the highest God, the Almighty God, and the Lord Creator. The notices in Theodoret, Augustine, and Predestinatus have no independent value. As a god, it is evident from these particulars that Abraxas was the name of the first of the 365 archons, and accordingly stood below Sophia and Dynamis. Now, I could do an entire deep dive into some of the words that I am about to tell you. Sophia and Dynamis are two of those. So I'm just going to have to, I'll let you know what the words are, and then you can go look for them on your own, because I cannot fit them all in here. But those are two. So Archerons, Sophia and Dynamis, those are some that you should go look up on your own, and their progenitors. But his position is not expressly stated, so that the writer of the supplement to Tertullian had some excuse for confusing him with the supreme god. Okay, as an aeon. You can look that one up on your own too. With the availability of primary sources, such as those in the Nag Hammadi library, the identity of Abraxas remains unclear. The Holy Book, the Great Invisible Spirit, for instance, refers to Abraxas as an aeon, dwelling with Sophia and other aeons of the Pleroma. Pleroma is another one you can go look up on your own. In the light of the luminary LilLaF, LilLaF is another one you can go look up on your own. All of these, it's a lot. In several texts, the luminary LilLaF is the last of the luminaries, spiritual lights, that come forward, and it is the Aeon Sophia, associated with LilLaF, who encounters darkness and becomes involved in the chain of events that leads to the Demiurge's rule of this world. Demiurge, that's another one you can go look up, but Abraxas is basically, allegedly, the Demiurge of this world and 365 others. And the salvage effort that ensues. As such, the role of aeons of LilLaF, including Abraxas, Sophia, and others, pertains to this outer border of the Pleroma that encounters the ignorance of the world of lack and interacts to rectify the error of ignorance in the world of materiality. As a demon, the Catholic Church later deemed Abraxas a pagan god, and ultimately branded him a demon, as documented in J. Collin de Plancy's Infernal Dictionary. Abraxas, is labeled the supreme god of the Basilidians, whom he described as heretics of the 2nd century. So originally, Abraxas was the primordial first god of our world and 365 other worlds. And then the Catholic Church came along and said, no, our God is the main one. And this other God, we've got to get rid of him. So how do we get rid of him? We call him pagan God. And Now he's just evil. So now Abraxas, who was considered before God and the devil, the creator of God and the devil, the creator of all things, now is just the devil, along with lots of other pagan gods. And he wasn't even a pagan god to begin with, so that's just all very strange. But I digress. He further indicated the Basilidians attributed to Abraxas the rule over 365 skies and 365 virtues. In a final statement on Basilidians, Duplancy states that their view was that Jesus Christ was merely a benevolent ghost sent on earth by Abraxas. Anguipity. Engraving from an Abraxas stone. In a great majority of instances, the name Abraxas is associated with singular composite figure, having a chimera-like appearance, somewhat resembling a basilisk or the Greek primordial god Kronos, not to be confused with the Greek Titan Cronus. According to E.A. Wallace Budge, a pantheist, i.e. all-god, he appears on the amulets with the head of a cock, Phobos, or of a lion, Ra or Mithras, the body of a man, and his legs are serpents, which terminate in scorpions. Types of Agathodamon. In his right hand he grasps a club or a flail. In his left is a round or oval shield. This form was also referred to as Anguipede. Budge surmised that Abraxas was a form of Adam Kadmon of the Kabbalists and the primal man whom God made in his own image. Some parts, at least, of the figure mentioned above are solar symbols, and the Basilidian Abraxas is manifestly connected with the sun. J.J. Bellarmine has speculated that the whole represents the Supreme Being, with his 5 great emanations, each one pointed out by means of an expressive emblem. Thus from the human body, the usual form assigned to the deity, for as much as it is written that God created man in his own image, issue the 2 supporters, nous and logos, symbols of the inner sense and the quickening understanding, as typified by the serpents. For the same reason that had induced the old Greeks to assign this reptile for an attribute to Pallas. His head, a cock's, represents Pharaonesis, the fowl being emblematical of foresight and vigilance. His 2 hands bear the badges of Sophia and Dynamis, the shield of wisdom, and the scourge of power. Origin. In the absence of other evidence to show the origin of these curious relics of antiquity, the occurrence of a name known as Basilidian on patristic authority has not unnaturally been taken as a sufficient mark of origin, and the early collectors and critics assumed this whole group to be the work of Gnostics. During the late 3 centuries, attempts have been made to sift away successfully those gems that had no claim to be considered in any sense Gnostic, or specially Basilidian, or connected with Abraxas. The subject is one which has exercised the ingenuity of many savants, but it may be said that all the engraved stones fall into 3 classes. While it would be rash to assert positively that no existing gems were the work of Gnostics, there is no valid reason for attributing all of them to such an origin. The fact that the name occurs on these gems in connection with representations of figures with the head of a cock, a lion, or an ass, and the tail of a serpent was formerly taken in the light of what Irenaeus says about the followers of Basilides. These men, moreover, practice magic, and use images, incantations, invocations, and every other kind of curious art, coining also certain names as if they were those of the angels. They proclaim some of these as belonging to the first, and others to the second heaven, and then they strive to set forth the names, principles, angels, and powers of the 365 imagined heavens. Adversus Heresias. Incantations by mystic names were characteristics of the hybrid Gnosticism planted in Spain and southern Gaul at the end of the 4th century and at the beginning of the 5th, which Jerome connects with Basilides, and which, according to his epist, used the name Abraxas. It is therefore not unlikely that some Gnostics used amulets, though the confident assertions of modern writers to this effect rest on no authority. Isaac de Busubri properly calls attention to the significant silence of Clement in the 2 passages in which he instructs the Christians of Alexandria on the right use of rings and gems, and the figures which may legitimately be engraved on them. But no attempt to identify the figures on existing gems with the personages of Gnostic mythology has had any success, and Abraxas is the only Gnostic term found in the accompanying legends that is not known to belong to other religions or mythologies. The present state of the evidence therefore suggests that their engravers and the Basilidians received the mystic name from a common source now unknown. On to the magical papyri. Having due regard to the magic papyri, in which many of the unintelligible names of the Abraxas stones reappear, besides directions for making and using gems with similar figures and formulas for magical purposes, it can scarcely be doubted that many of these stones are pagan amulets and instruments of magic. The magic papyri reflect the same ideas as the Abraxas gems, and often bear Hebraic names of God. The following example is illustrative. I conjure you by Lau Sabaoth Adonai Abraxas, and by the great God Leu. The patriarchs are sometimes addressed as deities, for which fact many instances may be adduced. In the group Lakubia Lau Sabaoth Adonai Abraxas, the first name seems to be composed of Jacob and Yah. Similarly, entities considered angels in Judaism are invoked as gods alongside Abraxas. Thus, I conjure you by the god Michael, by the god Suriel, by the god Gabriel, by the god Raphael, by the god Abraxas, Ablathanalba, Akramachari. In text, Abraxas is identified as part of the true name which has been transmitted to the prophets of Israel, of the headless one who created heaven and earth, who created night and day, Osirnophris, whom has ever seen, awesome the invisible God with an empty spirit. The name also includes Lau and Adonai. Osirnophris represents Egyptian Wisir-Winfir. Osiris, the perfect being. Another identification with Osiris is made in PGM. You are not wine, but the guts of Osiris, the guts of Ablanathalaba. Akramachamare, who has been stationed over necessity. Lakub la Lao Sabaoth Adonai Abraxas, on the other hand, identifies Abraxas as a name of Hermes, i.e. Thoth. Here the numerological properties of the name are invoked, with its 7 letters corresponding to the 7 planets, and its isophonic value of 365 corresponding to the days of the year. Thoth is identified with Abraxas. I am the soul of darkness, Abraxas, the Eternal One, Michael, but my true name is Tauth, Tauth. One papyrus titled the Monad, or the 8th Book of Moses, contains an invocation to a supreme creator god. Abraxas is given as being the name of this god in the language of the baboons. The papyrus goes on to describe the cosmogonic myth about Abraxas, describing how he created Odod by laughing. His first laughter created light. His second divided the primordial waters. His third created the mind. His fourth created fertility and procreation. His fifth created fate. His sixth created time as the sun and moon. And his seventh and final laughter created the soul. Then from various sounds made by Abraxas there arose the serpent Python, who foreknew all things, the first man, or fear, and the god Lao, who is lord of all. The man fought with Lao, and Abraxas declared that Lao's power would derive from both of the others, and that Lao would take precedence over all the other gods. This text also describes Helios as an archangel of god Abraxas. The Leiden papyrus recommends that this invocation be pronounced to the moon. Ho, sax amun sax Abraxas, for thou art the moon, the chief of the stars, he that did form them. Listen to the things that I have said, follow the words of my mouth, reveal thyself to me, Van, Vana, Vanata. Otherwise this is my correct name. The magic word Ablanathalba, which reads in Greek the same backwards as forward, also occurs in the Abraxas stones as well as in the magic papyri. This word is usually conceded to be derived from the Hebrew, Aramaic meaning, thou art our father, and also occurs in connection with Abraxas. Etymology. Gaius Julius Hyginus gives Abrax, Aslo, Verbio as names of horses of the sun mentioned by Homerus. The passage is miserably corrupt, but it may not be accidental that the first 3 syllables make Abraxas. The proper form of the name is evidently Abraxas, as with the Greek writers Hippolytus, Epiphanius, and Didymus, and Theodoret. Also Augustine and Praestodonatus, and in nearly all the legends on gems. By probably euphonic inversion, the translator of Irenaeus and the other Latin authors have Abraxas, which is found in the magical papyri and even, though most sparingly, on engraved stones. The attempts to discover a derivation for the name Greek, Hebrew, Coptic, or other have not been entirely successful. Egyptian. Claudius Salmasius thought it Egyptian but never gave the proofs which he promised. J.J. Bellarmine thinks it is a compound of the Egyptian words abrak and sax, meaning the honorable and the hallowed. The word is adorable. Samuel Sharp finds it in an Egyptian invocation to the Godhead, meaning hurt me not. Hebrew. Abraham Geiger sees in it a Grecicized form of Habaraka, the blessing, a meaning which Charles William King declares philologically untenable. J.B. Passeris derives it from ab, father, bara, to create, and a negative, the uncreated father. Giuseppe Berzalai goes back for explanation to the first verse of the prayer attributed in the Nehemiah ben Hakanah. the literal rendering of which is, O God, with thy mighty right hand deliver the unhappy people, forming from the initial and final letters of the words Abraxas, with the meaning the host of the winged ones, angels. While this theory can explain the mystic word abracadabra, the association of this phrase with Abraxas is uncertain. Greek. Wendelin discovered a compound of the initial letters amounting to 365 in numerical value, of 4 Hebrew and 3 Greek words, all written with Greek characters, Ab ben Rosh Hakados, Soteria Opo Zialu, Father, Son, Spirit, Holy, salvation from the cross. Isaac de Besobre derives Abraxas from the Greek habros and sau, the beautiful, the glorious Savior. Perhaps the word may be included among those mysterious expressions discussed by Adolf von Harnack, which belong to no known speech, and by their singular collocation of vowels and consonants give evidence that they belong to some mystic dialect or take their origin from some supposed divine inspiration. This concludes our study of the primordial god Abraxas. I hate that he is not covered more. There is so much material, and it's very deeply involved. I didn't even scratch the surface here, but just wanted to get this done. I equate this god with 2 things that are formless, yet a driving force in our human lives. The first is, as already mentioned, karma. The second is love, or eros, both forces that surround us and are neither good nor bad, and are both good and bad. They move our fates along in powerful ways. They are all things and nothing. They create and they destroy. I hope this was enlightening enough for you to desire to support my channel, so that I may continue to bring my stories in deeper hermeneutics. Evolve, think, heal. Goodbye until next time.